All right, let's talk Broncos versus Jaguars. Forget all the hype, all the headlines. We're going to dive into the data. What do the numbers actually tell us about who's got the edge in this matchup? Let's find out.
So this is the big question that's going to guide our whole breakdown. Once you strip away all the noise, what does the hard data reveal about how this game is probably going to play out? The answer? Well, it might surprise you.
Okay, let's start with what the data says is the single biggest factor in this game. I'm talking about the head-on collision between the Broncos' absolutely dominant pass rush and Trevor Lawrence's passing game. This right here is the main event.
And this lays out the core conflict perfectly. On one side, you have an elite pass rush from the Broncos, a unit that has just been living in quarterbacks' faces all season. And on the other side, the Jags have a passing game that, if we're being honest, is statistically kind of average. It's a classic mismatch.
Now, what's really interesting here is why Denver is so good at this. You see, it's not just luck. They are consistently one of the league leaders in sacks. They generate a dangerously high QB pressure rate. Their whole philosophy is built to just wreck an offense's timing and force those game-changing mistakes.
So all that pressure, it has a huge impact on a stat that decides a ton of games, third down efficiency. And just as a quick refresher, that's just the percentage of times an offense can convert on third down to keep a drive going. It's the money down for a reason.
And here it is, the entire game plan in a nutshell. Use that relentless pressure on Trevor Lawrence to shove the Jaguars into these really tough, long yardage third downs. Because if Jacksonville is constantly looking at 3rd and 10, their chances of keeping a drive alive just plummet.
But hold on, this isn't a one-sided fight. Jacksonville knows this pressure is coming, and you can bet their entire offensive game plan is going to be built around one specific countermove.
So that brings us to the big strategic question, right? If you're the Jaguars coaching staff, what do? How can you possibly neutralize the Broncos' single biggest strength and just give your offense a fighting chance?
And here's their best shot. The answer is right here. They can't just try to win a shootout through the air against that pass rush. No, the answer is to slow the whole game down, establish the run, and control the clock.
Now this breaks down the fascinating battle in the trenches. You've got the Jaguars' run offense, which is solid, it's balanced, and they're pretty good at grinding out extra yards after contact. But they are running straight into a brick wall. The Broncos' run defense is elite, and they have a top-tier defensive DVOA. That's just a fancy way of saying that when you measure their efficiency on every single play, they're one of the absolute best in the league at stuffing the run.
And this quote, man, it just sums up the whole chess match, doesn't it? The side that controls the running game will win the advantage in tempo and time of possession. It's that simple. If the Jags run the ball well, they neutralize the pass rush. If the Broncos stop the run, they force Jacksonville right back into the exact passing situations they want.
All right, we've seen the Broncos' primary weapon, we've seen the Jaguars' main countermove, so now let's put it all together and see what the final verdict is when we let the data do the talking.
When you just follow the numbers, a pretty clear 4-step logic starts to take shape that points to a Broncos win. First, that pass rush. It's just a huge mismatch. Second, you can't ignore home field advantage. It's a real statistically relevant factor. Third, their superior defensive DVOA weighting tells you they're just a more efficient and reliable unit overall. So it all leads to one conclusion. Denver seems to hold all the key advantages here.
So let's get right to it. The bottom line. What's the final score prediction? And more importantly, what should you actually be watching for when the game kicks off?
Okay, so the models are projecting a pretty close game, which makes sense, right? You've got these conflicting styles. The predicted score range has the Broncos winning 27-23. The thinking is that Denver's defense is going to be the unit that makes those decisive, game-winning plays in the big moments. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, this is a game that's probably going to be decided by key defensive stops, not some offensive fireworks show. The data suggests Denver is in the driver's seat to control those key moments, especially on third down. And for Jacksonville, their path to an upset is narrow, but it's crystal clear. They have to find a way to run the football successfully.
And that brings us to the final question to keep in your back pocket on game day. Look, we've laid out what the data says, but football isn't played on a spreadsheet. So the real question is, can the Jaguars' ground game be good enough to defy the numbers and pull off a really tough upset on the road? That's what we'll all be watching to find out.